Welcome to Speaking History. Today, we dive deep into one of Japan's most chilling and unsolved mysteries, the tale of the elusive and terrifying group known as the Monster with 21 Faces. Imagine a criminal mastermind so clever, so untouchable, that even the police and the Yakuza couldn't stop them. This isn't just a story of theft or violence. This is a dark game of psychological terror that shook Japan to its core. The Monster with 21 Faces left the nation paralyzed with fear, sending cryptic messages, taunting the authorities, and vanishing without a trace. What really happened? Who were these faceless villains? And why did they disappear as mysteriously as they arrived? Buckle up, because this story is about to take you on a wild, suspense-filled ride through one of the most baffling crimes in modern history. The Kidnapping of Katsuhisa Ezaki. It was a quiet evening on March 18, 1984, but that peace would soon be shattered in the most terrifying way. At around 9 p.m., two masked men crept into the home of Katsuhisa Ezaki, the president of Glico, one of Japan's largest confectionery companies. Armed with what appeared to be a pistol and rifle, though later believed to be mere toys, they were on a mission that would leave the nation stunned. How did they manage to break into such a well-secured home, you ask? The answer lay next door, in the house of Ezaki's elderly mother, Yoshi, aged 70. These masked intruders had already broken into Yoshi's home, tying her up with a cut telephone line, and in their search, they found the key to her son's home. Yoshi lived just a few steps away on the same property, her house surrounded by a brick wall. With the key in hand, the criminals bypassed the security system in Ezaki's house and stepped into the lion's den. Inside, the family was about to endure their worst nightmare. Ezaki's wife, Mikieko, and their eldest daughter, Mariko, only 7 years old, were caught off guard and tied up as the intruders made their intentions clear. In a moment of desperation, Mikieko tried to offer them money, hoping that this would satisfy the masked men. But one of them, with chilling indifference, whispered, "Be quiet. Money is irrelevant." The tension in the air was suffocating. The criminals, cold and calculating, weren't there for ransom or robbery. They had a much darker agenda. After silencing the house by cutting telephone lines, the men moved through the home like shadows, finally locating their main target, Katsuhisa Ezaki, who was bathing with his two younger children, Yukiko, aged 4, and Etsuro, aged 11. What happened next was straight out of a horror film. They dragged Ezaki out of the bath, naked and vulnerable, into the cold night, taking him to an unknown destination, an industrial warehouse in Ibaraki, Osaka. For 3 agonizing days, Katsuhisa Ezaki was held captive. Bound by ropes, his future seemed bleak. No one knew where he was or why he had been taken. Meanwhile, the nation was paralyzed with fear as the mystery behind this high-profile abduction deepened. But Ezaki, driven by sheer willpower, managed to escape. In a desperate bid for freedom, he freed himself from the ropes and fled the warehouse. He had made it out alive, but not unscathed. He returned home shaken and scarred, unable to identify his captors or shed light on their mysterious motives. Letters to Ezaki Glico. The terror surrounding Glico deepened when the Monster with 21 Faces took their psychological warfare to the next level. Just weeks after the dramatic kidnapping and escape of Katsuhisa Ezaki, they launched a series of chilling letters directed at both the police and the public, taunting their efforts and revealing that they were far from finished. On April 8, 1984, the first of these ominous letters arrived, addressed to the police. The message, dripping with arrogance and mockery, left no doubt about the group's confidence in outsmarting the authorities. In the letter, they wrote, "To Japanese police fools. Are you stupid? There's so many of you. What on earth are you doing? If you are real pros, try catching me. There's too much handicap, so I will give you a hint. There's no fellows in Ezaki's relatives, no fellows in the Nishinomiya police, no fellows in the flood fighting corps. The car I used is gray. Food was bought at Daiei. If you want a new info, beg for it in the newspaper. After telling you all this, you should be able to catch me. If you don't, you are tax thieves. Shall I kidnap the head director of the prefectural police? The tone was playful, yet menacing. Even as they fed the police small breadcrumbs, like the color of the car used in the kidnapping or the store where they bought food for Ezaki, the clues were of little help. The monster with 21 faces remained as elusive as ever, laughing at the system that had failed to bring them to justice. But the letters weren't limited to just the police. The criminals had another target, the media. They began taunting the public too, ensuring that their reign of terror would not go unnoticed. One such letter, written in hiragana and laced with the Osaka dialect, read, "Dear dumb police officers, don't tell a lie. All crimes begin with a lie, as we say in Japan. Don't you know that?" It was clear. This wasn't about money. This was about power, control, and humiliating anyone who stood in their way. As the letters continued, the group seemed to take pleasure in feeding just enough information to stay one step ahead. On April 23rd, a new letter surfaced, this time sent to both the Sankei and Mainichi newspapers, as well as the Koshiin police station. It said, "To police fools, you shouldn't lie. If you lie, you steal. I also sent this to the Koshiin police. Why are you lying? Don't hide things. Why are you complaining? You guys are having such a hard time, so I will give you a hint." I entered the factory from the side staff entrance. The typewriter we used is Panwriter. The plastic container used was a piece of street garbage, monster with 21 faces. Each new detail was another slap in the face to the police, just enough to infuriate them, but never enough to lead to the criminal's capture. Then came the most terrifying letter of all. On May 10th, 1984, the monster with 21 faces sent a letter to Glico itself. The message wasn't just a taunt, it was a deadly threat. The group claimed they had laced $21 million worth of Glico's candy with potassium cyanide soda, threatening to put the poisoned products on store shelves. The very idea sent shockwaves through the country. Though none of the candies were ever found to be poisoned, the psychological damage had been done. Fear spread like wildfire, and Glico had no choice but to pull their products from stores. The company suffered a loss of over $20 million, and the impact didn't stop there. 450 part-time workers were laid off as Glico's business spiraled into chaos. As the months dragged on, the group's relentless harassment pushed Glico to the edge. Sales plummeted by nearly $130 million, leaving the company in a financial crisis. It seemed that the monster with 21 faces had won, until, in an unexpected turn of events, they issued a bizarre proclamation on June 26th. The message? The group had decided to forgive Glico. And just like that, the nightmare appeared to end. The harassment stopped, and Glico was left to pick up the shattered pieces of their empire. But the question lingered. Who were these faceless criminals, and why had they unleashed such terror, only to suddenly stop? Letters to Morinaga. Just as the terror campaign against Glico came to a sudden halt, the monster with 21 faces turned its chilling focus to a new target, Morinaga. The confectionery giant, along with other food companies like Marudai Ham and House Food Corporation, became the new prey of this shadowy criminal group who seemed to thrive on the chaos they unleashed. It was October 1984 when the first ominous sign arrived. A letter, addressed not to executives or police, but to the mothers of Japan, was sent to various Osaka news agencies. The letter carried a chilling warning. To moms of the nation, we have poisoned your children's candy. 20 packages of Morinaga sweets have been laced with sodium cyanide. Check your stores before it's too late. The monster with 21 faces had issued the same kind of sinister threat they had once used against Glico, but this time, they weren't bluffing. Police sprang into action, scouring stores from Tokyo to the west of Japan. What they found confirmed the terrifying reality. Over a dozen packages of Morinaga's popular Choco Balls and Angel Pie had been tampered with, labeled with the horrifying message, "Danger contains toxins." These packages weren't just a threat, they were deadly. And it was only a matter of time before more were discovered. By February 1985, the authorities had uncovered a total of 21 lethal products scattered across store shelves. The entire nation was on edge. Parents feared for their children's lives with every bite of candy. The monster with 21 faces had taken their psychological warfare to an even more dangerous level, using the innocence of sweets as their weapon. But they weren't finished yet. On November 1st, 1984, a threatening letter arrived at the Tokyo home of Morinaga Dairy's vice president, Mitsuo Yamada. The words dripped with arrogance and menace, leaving little doubt about the group's intentions. To President, "You saw our power, didn't you? If you disobey us, we will destroy your company. You will get killed. Decide whether you want to give us money or do you want to see your company destroyed? Tell us in the Mainichi newspaper on either the 5th or 6th of November. Use the missing persons. Use these words in the reply: Jiro, Morinaga, mother, police, bad friend, money, meal. As we said before, we want 200 million yen. Monster with 21 faces." The stakes were higher than ever. Not only was Morinaga's reputation and business on the line, but lives hung in the balance. The group demanded an astronomical sum of 200 million yen, and the method of response was just as bizarre as their threats. Morinaga had to reply to them through a cryptic missing persons ad in the Mainichi newspaper, using specific words dictated by the monster with 21 faces. On November 6th, the company complied, publishing the following ad in the morning edition of Mainichi. "Dear Jiro, bad friend disappeared. Come back. Warm meal is waiting. Mother Chiyoko." But even compliance didn't guarantee safety. Just a day later, 2 more letters from the monster with 21 faces were sent to House Foods, another company now caught in the crosshairs of this dangerous group. By then, the situation had escalated to a full-blown crisis. Morinaga and company was forced to slash their production by 90%, a move that sent shockwaves through the Japanese food industry. The monster with 21 faces didn't just want money, they wanted control. They wanted fear to ripple through every corner of Japan. And with every letter, every poisoned candy, they tightened their grip on the country's collective psyche. Death of Superintendent Yamamoto and the end of the monster's reign. By August 1985, the case of the monster with 21 faces had become a relentless source of shame for the Japanese police force. Their failure to capture the mastermind behind the terror campaign weighed heavily on those responsible for the investigation. Superintendent Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture had been at the forefront of the search, but the mounting pressure and public humiliation took a tragic toll on him. In a shocking act of despair, Superintendent Yamamoto ended his life by self-immolation. His suicide was not just a personal tragedy, but a grim reflection of how much this case had scarred the authorities. It was clear that the police had reached their breaking point. 5 days after his death, the monster with 21 faces emerged once more, sending their final letter to the media. It was a letter as chilling as it was twisted. "Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture Police died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding place in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career Yamamoto died like a man. So we decided to give our condolence. We decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food-making companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do other than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. Monster with 21 faces. The letter was cold, almost mocking in its tone. Yamamoto's death was reduced to a foolish act, and yet it seemed to bring a strange sense of closure for the monster. They claimed they had no more interest in terrorizing food companies and gave their final taunt. If anyone else tried to blackmail these companies, it wasn't them, but mere copycats. The police had been chasing shadows for over a year, and this letter marked the end of the nightmare. The monster with 21 faces had decided they had enough. Their reign of terror ended not because they were caught, but because they chose to walk away. They had made their point, instilled fear, and shattered the confidence of the police. And now, they were gone. The case that had once gripped Japan with fear slowly began to fade from the headlines. Despite over 1 million police officers working on the case, more than 28,000 tips, and nearly 125,000 people being investigated, no arrests were ever made. By June 1995, the statute of limitations for the kidnapping of Katsuhisa Ezaki, the president of Glico, expired, and in February 2000, the limitations on the attempted poisonings also ran out. The monster with 21 faces disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a legacy of fear and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. The question of who they were and why they orchestrated such a twisted campaign of terror lingers, a ghost story whispered in the dark corners of Japanese history. The major suspects behind the monster with 21 faces. As the investigation into the monster with 21 faces dragged on, the authorities began to focus on several key suspects, each of whom played a significant role in the mystery surrounding the crimes. Despite years of relentless investigation and countless leads, the monster always seemed to be one step ahead, vanishing just as the police closed in. The videotaped man. One of the first major breakthroughs came after the monster with 21 faces threatened to poison Glico's confectionery products. The company had already pulled its goods off shelves, but one man, caught on a security camera, seemed to defy the panic. Wearing a Yomiuri Giants baseball cap, he was seen placing Glico chocolates back onto a store shelf. His casual manner and confident actions sparked suspicions. Was he connected to the monster? The image of this videotaped man was soon made public, sparking a media frenzy. He was believed to be a key figure in the monster's scheme, someone who brazenly returned to the scene of the crime. Yet, despite the attention, this man, captured so clearly on film, disappeared, leaving nothing but his grainy image behind. The Fox-Eyed Man. The Fox-Eyed Man became one of the most elusive and mysterious suspects in the case. On June 28, 1984, just 2 days after the monster agreed to stop tormenting Marudai Ham for 50 million yen, the police thought they were closing in. An undercover officer, disguised as a Marudai employee, followed the exact instructions given by the monster for the ransom exchange. It was supposed to be the moment that would end the reign of terror. However, as the officer sat on the train, he noticed a suspicious figure. A large, well-built man with short, permed hair and cold, calculating eyes, described as eyes like those of a fox. This man was watching the officer intently, as if aware of the sting operation unfolding before him. The police moved in, tailing the fox-eyed man through several trains, but he was slippery, vanishing without a trace just before the authorities could catch him. The fox-eyed man wasn't just a one-time appearance. He showed up again during another planned money drop, this time with House Food Corporation. Once more, he evaded capture, leaving the police frustrated and no closer to solving the mystery. Manabu Miyazaki. The Yakuza connection. As the investigation progressed, one name began to rise to the surface: Manabu Miyazaki. He was the son of a well-known Yakuza boss and had a reputation that made him a person of interest. Not only did he have a criminal background, but Miyazaki had also been involved in a labor dispute with Glico a decade earlier. This past connection to Glico made him a prime suspect. Investigators even went so far as to claim that Miyazaki bore a striking resemblance to both the videotaped man and the fox-eyed man, linking him to multiple incidents. However, as they delved deeper into his alibis, the evidence began to crumble. Despite being initially named as the mastermind behind the monster with 21 faces, Miyazaki was eventually cleared of any direct involvement in the crimes. The case of the monster with 21 faces stands as one of the most unsettling, unsolved mysteries in Japan's history. Despite the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the investigation of countless suspects, the mastermind behind these terrifying crimes was never caught. This case continues to intrigue and disturb to this day, leaving behind questions that may never be answered. If you found this story as captivating as we did, make sure to like this video, share it with others who love a good mystery, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating and gripping stories like this one.